Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr here today with a card featuring the Simon Says Stamp and Art Impressions STAMPtember set. It's their exclusive limited edition called Nutty and Nice. And it is this absolutely hysterical image of these three women having some fruitcake and just super duper fun. And I'm going to share how to do some stenciling in your background and then do some coloring right over the top. No masking required. No masking is one of my favorite things. I know I shared another card actually yesterday. A link to it at the end of this video, which had tons of masking and then inking and coloring. If you stencil or ink a light enough background, oftentimes you can get away with no masking, especially if you're using two water-based products. For example, I am using some Distress ink, which is a water-based ink, and then I'm going to be using some Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, which also are water-based. And so I am going to be able to color over this within a reasonable amount of time. You don't want your ink to dry too much, so I would say you'd want to work on it all in one day. I didn't work on it immediately. I had done the stencil or applied the ink through the stencil. I stamped my image, I started to color, and then I had an interruption and I had to come back to it, and I still was able to color over it perfectly fine. This beautiful stencil is from the Simon Says Stamp STAMPtember release. This is called Quilted. I am a quilter. I don't get to do it as much as I would like to, but I absolutely love to quilt, love fabric, so this stencil really spoke to me. So I used that with Pumice Stone Distress ink in the background, and I applied it with a blending brush, and that really applies such a beautiful light even coat. And it's a very, very light color, so it's just going to add some fun texture and interest to the background, and we're going to be able to color over it perfectly. You can see that stenciling through the image I stamped here of these Art Impressions women. So don't be afraid to color over it, but in the finished card, you can't see that stenciling in the finished coloring images, and that is what I'm going for. I am using a scrap piece of paper to protect my image. I have mentioned this before in videos, but I tend to lay my hand down when I'm coloring or writing or anything. Well, I used VersaFine ONYX black ink here. It's a pigment-based ink, and I love it for using this with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. However, it smears a little bit until it's all the way dry. Plus, the markers can smear a little bit before they are all the way dry. So I just use a scrap piece of paper. Usually it's the same piece that I'm using to clean the tip of my lighter markers off on, and I'm able to protect my work surface. I went with some kind of deeper color combinations for these women's pajamas. And that's going to be, in the center is red. And I didn't want to do super bright red. I wanted to do something a little bit deeper. And my favorite color combination for that is the deep rose, or pardon me, deep red and pale rose. And you can even pull a little blender in there for some lighter areas if you want to. But look how pretty this is. And I'm simply going to work on adding all the color to her pajamas. I can even go back with my darker deep red color. There's a few areas that I felt really probably blended out more than I would actually like them to. So they still need some better shadowing. So I'm just going to take that darker marker and just go back in and add some extra detail. And that's really going to make those pajamas look much, much better. Around the elastic, around the pants, the wrists, around the neckband or the neck of her top, I'm just going to use the deep red color to make that nice and dark. We're going to use a little pale rose for her lips or lipstick. And then we'll move on and add those same colors, the deep red and pale rose, to her hat. She's got a cute little Santa hat with the bell on the top of it. And we will add trim to the hat with our light gray marker. And I'm just going to lay just a tiny bit of light gray there and blend it out with my blender. Her hair is going to be colored with dark brown, oatmeal, and the blender. You can see I laid down the dark brown. I'm going to blend it out with the oatmeal color and finish with my blender pen. And the images are starting to come to life. Let's move on to our next gal over here on the left. And she really thinks something is funny. I think these images are hysterical. They are so much fun and really, really fun to color. Again, I'm using beige and flesh color here. And I accidentally colored in her teeth with my marker. And I left that in the video because I think it's always good to be totally transparent because we all do those kind of things. We're coloring along. I was watching a movie and I mean, I'm filming it at the same time, but all of a sudden I was like, oh no, those are her teeth. I took a white pen though and just went over that and was able to fix it. So that's a little tip for you. If you get some color in an area you want to keep white, you can always take a great white pen and go over that. She, of course, is going to have the green pajamas. So red and green are kind of our traditional Christmas colors here. And then I'm going to also pull in a nice pretty blue, which I really like for Christmas as well. But we're keeping all of the tones, the shade, the kind of darker jewel tone, I guess is what I want to say. So they're all going to be in the jewel tone family and not really that bright primary or pastel color family, which works really great for holiday cards, I think. Her pajamas are colored with olive green and pale dawn gray and the blender. Just like the red pajamas, there's some areas that I felt like blended out way, way too much, and I need darker shading and a little bit deeper color, and I'm simply just going to go in and add that back in and not do a ton of blending out of that either. Her hair is going to be colored with mustard and a blender, and I'm not doing a ton of blending. It's more just kind of touching and moving that ink around a little bit. And then let's move on to our last gal over here on the right. Again, we'll color in her face. Oh, and I did forget to mention, I think, the cheeks on all three ladies, I used pink haze to darken those up. I also got some of that beige or flesh color in the white area of her eye, so I had to go back in and fix that as well with my white pen. And then we're going to use peacock blue and haze blue for her pajamas. Love, love, love this color combination as well. If you are looking for some great color combinations for autumn themed or winter themed cards, these are three of my very favorites. I get asked often about favorite color combos, and a lot of the time, and maybe it depends on the time of year too, I will list off some of my favorite bright color combos, especially if you watched my picket fence video from yesterday, the trifold snowman card I'll link to here at the end of this video. It has a lot of those bright rainbow colors. These are my favorite color combinations I'm using today that are jewel tone. And it just really depends on what kind of color you're going for. And maybe you prefer jewel tones, and so I just always like to state kind of my favorite marker color combinations. Let's go ahead and add some flesh color to their ankles here, the remaining two ladies. I opted to do their slippers to match their pajamas. It's almost like they're having, you know, a little pajama party, eating the fruitcake, and I thought that coloring in all their slippers to match the pajamas would be the best look, I guess, for this, and I really love how it turned out. Then they have accessories. So all three ladies have some fun, like little earrings. And that includes, so the center lady just kind of has a big earring there, and I'm going to color that green, which I did just a minute ago. The gal on the left has like a bell-shaped earring, and then the lady over on the right has ornament earrings. So we'll want to color all of those in. And it's about this time that I decided I love the coloring, but I want to add some texture to their pajama tops. And so the the lady in the middle is going to have a polka dotted top. Using my white pen, I'm just going to go over that and add in that texture, and it really adds a fun touch. We'll also add some little white highlights to the toes of the slipper. This is not a card where I'm going to use a ton of detail with a white pen. Just really in their tops to give them, you know, some interest, a pattern. And then anywhere that I had to go and fix something that I made a mistake, and then those little highlights on the tips of their slippers. The gal over here, her hair is colored with gray and light gray and the blender. Just like the lady over on the left, I didn't do a ton of blending, but instead kind of just touched my marker and pulled that color out to give it the color I wanted. She's got some fun reindeer antlers, so we're going to color that in with the dark brown and oatmeal. These are her little earrings. As I mentioned, she's got ornament earrings. We'll do those in red. The stars that the lady on the left has on her head, that's going to be mustard and the blender. And then the jingle bell on the Santa hat also is going to be mustard and the blender pen. Earring, the bell earring, that's going to be the blues. And then the ornament hanging from the antler is going to be green. We almost have everything colored in here. I want to give something for them to be sitting on, just to kind of help ground the image so they're not floating into this quilted background. So I quickly drew in with my gray marker just a little line, a little dashed line, and I'll add little touches of that here and there. I don't want to add a super ton because I don't want it to get too terrible dark. And then we're just going to blend that out with light gray and a blender as needed. But that just kind of helps give some shadowing, shading, and really helps with the whole scene. Very, very quick and easy. And again, you can see me coloring right over that stenciled background, and it just blends it right out. The fruit cake is going to be colored with dark brown and oatmeal. This is the color I used for the antlers, or the color combination I used for the antlers. For the lady in the middle's hair, I did not pull anything new out. And then we're just going to grab a red, green, and yellow marker and add the fruit to the fruit cake. And we'll get all of these colored in. And then we are ready to start our finishing details. Those little white highlights that I was talking about on the toes of the slippers. And then we're going to do like a plaid design on the green top. So I'm going to go one way with the white marker and then go back, and our white pen, and go back and go the other way. For the blue top, I did stripes. So I'm going to just kind of go in and just quickly draw stripes. They don't have to be super perfect. Just kind of give that illusion of the stripe there, and it really adds so much to the scene. I'm also going to go and add my black gel pen to the lady on the right's eyes. Let that dry, and I'll go back in and add the white highlight. I've got a speech bubble here that I die cut from some Hero Hues PEBBLE cardstock. Waffle Flower has some great speech bubble dies if you're looking for lots of different sizes that you can use for many different projects. I'm going to take 2 sentiments from the Nutty and Nice stamp set, the stamp set that this image comes from, and we're going to stamp those on the speech bubble with Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, and then heat emboss with white embossing powder. This card is really white heavy. We've got a white background. We did stencil it with a really light ink, and what I love is the pumice stone ink really coordinates or complements the Hero Hues PEBBLE cardstock. They go together really nicely. So the speech bubble, while it's definitely a eye-catching part of the design, it's not going to overpower the entire design because we chose to do a nice muted color. And then we will tie into all of the white on the card with white embossing. I stamped the longer phrase first, and then right above that we'll stamp Nutty and Nice. We'll add white embossing powder to both, heat emboss, and then I did trim down my background. It's going to be about 1/4 of an inch on each side and then along the bottom edge, but it's going to be flush with the top of the card. And then we're going to adhere our speech bubble to the top of this panel and attach the whole thing to a white top fold card base. So we're going to have a white border on both sides and on the bottom, but not at the top. And we'll simply line this up with the top of our top fold card base. And then I can trim away any of that excess speech bubble. And I like to use my nice long scissors so I can get that with one pass. And look how cute. Now I felt like we needed a little adornment to the top of the card. And so I have these cute honeybee little clay snowflakes, and we are just going to attach these all over the top of the card. I'm using Lawn Fawn glue tube and the crystal katana to pick them up and pop them in place. They are a white embellishment, but they add some fantastic texture, interest, and snowflakes definitely go along with the theme of a Christmas themed card. I'm going to add plenty. We're going to have a little trio of them up in the speech bubble, and then it looks like we have about 8 of them down below. You can add as many or as few as you want. You could also opt to do some maybe like star confetti. You could do some Nouveau crystal drops or sequins, all kinds of different things to add some fun little embellishment. After I added all of my little snowflakes, I really felt like I needed to add some sort of embellishment to the earrings that all of the ladies have, the ornament hanging from the antlers, the stars in the other lady's headband, and then the bell on the Santa hat. And my favorite product for adding some sparkle is the Nouveau Crystal Drops in White Blizzard. So I will be taking those Nouveau Crystal Drops in White Blizzard and then just adding some little glittery touches here and there throughout the card design. This is going to go on, and it gives it kind of a milky appearance when you first put it on there, but it will dry clear, and it's just going to have a great iridescent sparkle to it that adds to the holiday feeling of this design. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this card featuring tips on coloring over a stenciled background with Zag Clean Color Real Brush markers. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring STAMPtember exclusive stamp sets that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel to never miss a card making video. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.